Welcome aboard Canal Light Vessel Automatic, Whitchurch's answer to pirate radio. Sadly, it's fully legal and not a radio station. On the plus side, Tony Blackburn is not with us, and seasickness tablets are unnecessary. So settle back for the lock-in, a meandering journey, occasionally fraught with the rusty shopping trolleys that fate throws in our path as we get to know some of the people who have helped contribute to making our brilliant market town that also has a canal, where we are.
From super yachts in the Caribbean via Manchester and now to here, we're joined on Canal Light Vessel Automatic, our very own floating gin palace, by Maria, owner of Refill Your Boots on the High Street. Not a shoe shop as I first thought, but a brilliant concept that cuts waste, packaging and cost from the supply chain and your shopping. Maria talks to us about how and why Refill Your Boots started, why she's built a life in Whitchurch, and inventive ways to get 10 kilograms of loose Brazil nuts home without needing a wheelbarrow.
Right, so welcome to Canal Light Vessel Automatic. I'm not going to explain that again, I got to understand it myself. But today Dave and I are joined by Maria from Refill Your Boats. Yep, that's a deliberate mistake, Refill Your Boots. Thank you very much indeed for coming along.
Hello.
It's very nice to see you.
Yeah,
so
you guys.
I imagine this is familiar for Maria because it's a boat and Maria has a huge history and background on the water, although I don't think it's on a canal boat, is it?
No, only done that once for a week's holiday.
A bit more glamorous. Anyway, Maria, as some of you might know, she runs Refill Your Boots on the High Street, which is a cracking little shop in a beautiful shade of green, I think. But I think Steve Chapman was on last week, and Steve is very involved in action around the high street community, seeing it as an ecosystem. And we've heard lots and lots and lots on the radio, in the news, about the high street, the troubles it faces, and how we can fix it. And I think Refill Your Boots kind of epitomises what people want in a shop. It's interesting, it's sustainable, it's a bit quirky, and it's great. And so Maria has started that, and so she's here to talk a bit about that and her history and her background and what got her to it. So tell us a bit more about it for those that don't know.
So the whole kind of ethos behind it is to try and help people reduce single-use plastic. So it's about bringing your own containers to fill up on your kind of staples like your pasta, your rice, your dried fruits, your nuts, so that you're not always buying them in plastic and then having to throw that away. And then it continues on to like liquids, and that's where the idea sprung from, was like throwing away your shampoo bottle every couple of weeks and getting a new one. Like, you can just refill it. Same with things like olive oil, and then we do like eco swaps, so things like bamboo toothbrushes, just things that are generally plastic that you can do an eco swap for and have it much more sustainable, compostable at the end of its life. So yeah, just about trying to have people do a little bit more thinking about the products they have in their house and reducing their plastic waste.
So is that, because I must admit, I can't remember if it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I think I remember reading about it and thinking, not just your shop solely, but it was in the news somewhere.
Yeah.
And I thought that's just a brilliant idea. So was it something that you'd been planning to do, or had you heard about it and then decided, I'm going to do it, it needs something in Whitchurch? Or
it was kind of something I was planning to do, and until we came up with the idea and looked into it, we didn't know it was a thing. So we were living in Manchester and thought, why am I throwing this bottle away every couple of weeks? And we're like, this is silly, there should be a better way, and started looking at options for refilling, and there wasn't a lot around. But then this company called M20 Refills set up, and they did like a doorstep delivery of your liquids, and we were like, that's genius, why didn't we think of that? We were sat there racking our brains going, that's so annoying. We were presented with this problem, why didn't we come up with that solution? And then our brain kind of got more and more thinking. We thought, well, we could just do a whole shop, not just liquids, we could do a whole shop that does everything like this. And at that point, living in Manchester, we were kind of thinking, right, could this work? And we thought, I think it could have legs. And then a shop like it opened just around the corner, and we were like, we were too late. And so we kind of put it to the side, and eventually we got to a point where we decided we were going to move away from Manchester, and we were like, right, well, we can still do this. We can do it in another area where we moved to. So we actually spoke to the guys who opened the shop. It was called Lentils and Lather, and they were incredibly helpful. They sat down with us and told us exactly how they did it and what they found worked, what didn't work, and yeah, they were so informative. So from that point, we kind of thought, right, we will do it when we move, and then we ended up in Whitchurch and opened up our little shop.
It's funny, isn't it? I don't know whether you guys think this is true, but I think if someone's passionate about a cause, rather than being almost selfish with the idea and having to go, I'm doing this.
Yes.
They actually really want to share it.
Yeah. They couldn't have been more helpful, and I, did say to them, we're not going to move in on your territory. We are moving away. We're looking to move more rural to, hadn't quite picked the area at that point, and they were like, no, that's fine, and they told us as much as they could. So yeah, they were lovely guys.
So have you got, because I know, is Nick part of the setup as well? Nick's your husband, isn't he?
Nick's my husband. He's in the background, but you'll see him a bit more in the shop now because he's at home more. So yes, he's definitely involved in it, but I'd say I'm kind of more the forerunner with it.
So have you done retail before?
I did a little stint in Marks and Spencer's over Christmas, and that's about it. So no, it was quite new.
So it's completely brand new.
Yeah.
So have you always kind of had that eye on? Is retail something you've always thought about, or owning a shop something you've always thought about, or a business, or is it the environmental and sustainability draw? It
was the environmental side. So I'd never really thought about a shop, but my brain started to go down more of the environmental route and looking at things that I could do to help the planet, and that's when the idea came about. And so then we ventured into retail, having zero experience, but kind of thought, why not? What's the worst that can happen?
You had this kind of like vision, this kind of like idea of how you were very interested in you say the environment. It seems to be like cause driven.
Yes, yeah.
And that really pushed you into into action.
I guess like we had a problem, i.e. throwing away bottles that seemed perfectly good, and we wanted to come up with a solution. And as our brains got going, the solution seemed to be a refill shop where you could just keep reusing the same things instead of throwing them away every time.
Yeah. So how do you get the stuff delivered to you then?
So on the liquid side, we have a company that bring us 20-litre bottles, and then when they do the next delivery, they'll take all their empties back and they clean them and reuse them. So there's no recycling on that part either. Yeah. So obviously things will come to an end of life at some point, but
you can't use them forever.
No, but they can be used a lot longer than the single time that we kind of are led to believe. So yeah, we get stuff delivered. On the food side, we get a lot in paper sacks where it works, but not all foods do stay fresh in paper. So we do get some plastic, but again, we return that to our suppliers, and they work with companies that use that to recycle it and make it into other products.
So it's definitely not single. Like, you're making sure, really, aren't you? It's not. It's not just going to be a single-use load of rubbish.
Yeah. We do get some rubbish, but I think compared to a lot of businesses, our rubbish is minimal. I think we get charged about £2 or £3 a week for our rubbish removal, which is minimal.
Wow.
So yeah, we do try and stay true to what we're selling people. We're not kind of greenwashing, as they say.
That's fair play.
Yeah.
So where did it all come from? I know a lot of us have grown up. The environmental agenda has been part of our lives. It's been part of my people started talking about it in my 20s. So what is it always been something that's in you? You've liked the environment. What was your background before this? What have you done?
So I'd say I wasn't massively environmental till about 9 or 10 years ago, and before this I used to work on yachts, and it was while I was...
Are we talking yachts in the kind of, what's that thing on telly at the moment? Below Decks or something? It's like a reality TV show.
Exactly that.
But of yachties and people working on that. Yeah. So that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we're talking not just gin palaces, we're talking gin empires, huge, 200, 300 foot things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. But while I was on one of those, we were in Antigua, and they put a showing of a documentary called Race Against Extinction on, like kind of like a cinema but small scale, outdoor, Antigua style, and that kind of started me to think about what we're doing to the planet, the environment, and that started me kind of on the path of being vegetarian. From that I kind of gleaned that eating meat was quite a big contribution to carbon emissions, and I thought, well, I don't need to eat meat all the time.
So did you like eat meat? You ate meat before, did you?
Yes.
And did you quite like it?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how
No,
was
I
that
loved it.
Yeah,
Like,
loved it, and then
I loved
wow.
steak and steak tartare. Like I'd eat
I
raw.
guess me
Yeah.
too. But I couldn't imagine not eating it.
Nor could I.
I had a friend, a very smart guy, and he got out to Claridge's with some clients, and he thought, and he this is the guy that will always only eat steak well done. And he saw on the menu and he thought, oh, steak tartare, that looks nice. Spices, egg, delicious. And then it turned up, obviously, raw.
Yeah.
And he couldn't admit that he couldn't not eat it. And so this guy who can't eat anything less than completely well done, just going through tiny mouthful by tiny mouthful, heaving.
Oh no.
Gordon Ramsay's food. So anyway, but the steak tartare, delicious. But anyway, sorry.
So I thought I don't need to eat meat every single day. So I kind of said to myself, I will eat meat once a week. And
an entire side of a cow.
Yes, on that one day.
Okay.
Plus a chicken or three.
Well, you might as well share them around.
And I did. I just stopped eating meat. And fortunately, I was working with a chef who was vegetarian and incredible at
This is
cooking
on the
yachts,
boat. And they do have good chefs, don't they?
They do have very good chefs. So she made it incredibly easy for me to stop eating meat because the food that she cooked was so tasty. So you didn't feel like you were missing out. And I found that I didn't need to eat the meat once a week, like I said I would allow myself to, and just decided I was pretty happy. And if I ever did have cravings, and I'd just be like, well, maybe my body needs some more iron or something, and I will
5 kilos of watercress later.
Yeah, I will allow myself to eat something if I'm kind of craving it. And if I go to someone's house and they've made me meat and didn't realise I was vegetarian, I'm not going to turn it down.
Turn down steak tartare.
No, absolutely not.
No, that sounds wasteful.
Exactly,
which is something you don't
totally
really like
against
at all.
what I'm doing.
Yeah, you absolutely have to eat it, wouldn't you? Good point. So thinking, because I love the water and I sail, not quite as glamorously in terms of the places that you've been, although I did get caught in a tropical storm in the Caribbean, and we had 2 submariners on board who would have been quite useful if we'd sunk, but we were very close to, we were drifting onto the rocks, so it was all a bit hairy. But I think I found, and okay, it's Anglesey, but I do think if you are surrounded in an environment that you love and you find utterly beautiful, I do think it makes you think more about the world that we live in.
Yeah, and then being on beaches and finding washed up plastic, like straws, for example, which, are everywhere. It makes you start to think, like, why are people just throwing this away, and why have we got these single-use plastics, like, around? Like, now they ban the plastic straws, which is great. But when you do see beautiful places just littered with rubbish, it does make you think, and it all kind of started to progress from there.
I remember listening to a radio, James Cameron, that went down to the bottom of the Marianas. Is it Marianas Trench? Mariana Trench in the Atlantic. So it's the deepest point.
Yeah.
And he went down on his own for he must have been gone for 9 hours. Like, brave. And he said, when he was interviewed, when he came back up, he said, and I thought it was a joke. He said, no, I did actually see a plastic bag down there.
What?
You're thinking, Sainsbury's gets everywhere.
But it's shocking, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the big catalyst for me. Watching that documentary started, and it was just little things that I could start doing, like, rather than, I didn't like become an eco warrior overnight. I just started to make small changes where I could.
It's more refreshing, I think, when people they don't virtue signal, because it's the big, look at what I'm doing, and there, Steve was on the other week. Steve is the epitome of someone who doesn't virtue signal. Okay, he talks about, my God, he does stuff.
Yeah.
But there are people out there, I think, like you just said, you do these little things, don't make a big deal out of it. and it's so much more useful. Sorry, Laurie, do you need your booze?
To a swine. Yeah.
Sorry, producer needs some booze. He's starting to shake. So, do you want to put some whiskey in there?
Yeah. Well, it is a lock-in after all, isn't it?
That's true.
Well, one bottle of wine, it's not going to go that far. And as usual, you've completely made me lose my train of thought.
I need to do it once every
5 minutes
podcast.
Yeah, once every podcast. So
Are you saying Steve
Thank
doesn't
you.
shout about?
no, but it's lovely that people actually do it, because you do meet these people who drone on and on and on about what they do, how marvellous they are, they're morally superior, and it just gets a little bit tedious, and it's quite refreshing that people just do things quietly. It might not be massive, because we can only do so much, can't we?
Yeah, exactly.
But again, if we all do
a little bit. There's people come into the shop and say, right, I want to change everything. I'm like, don't change everything. Just change one thing at a time, because you'll feel so overwhelmed
Yes.
that it'll terrify you and you won't do it at all. I'm like, just, when your next thing runs out, think about if you can refill it or if there's an alternative to it. Don't do everything at once, because it's too much for people to do.
Do you? Sorry, I'm thinking of my advertising background. Do you help them do that? For example, I'm thinking, if I'm trying to work out what I can reuse, refill, just kind of little tips and help points that can actually make you more environmentally aware and friendly at home. Do you do anything like that? Do you kind of
Other than
hacks?
talking to people,
I'm going to call them hacks in this day and age.
No, I'm not that
Hacker.
cleverer to market it like that. But if people come into the shop and say, "Oh, I need to buy 20 Kilner jars," and I'm like, no, you don't. You need to maybe save the plastic bag that your cornflakes came in and refill that.
Turn it into a shower cap.
Yeah.
It just came into my head for some reason. Yeah.
Hold on to your jam jar when it's empty. Fill that with something. It's like, you don't go out and spend a fortune to do this and buy loads of new things, because that totally defeats the object.
And it's the kind of stuff our grandparents used to do.
Yes,
So
yeah.
I still have jumpers and shoes and jackets that are 20, 30 years old, because you look after them. But it's really satisfying. If you buy once and if you buy well and you
Yes.
look after it.
Yeah.
And it's almost, in some ways, it's not really new, isn't it? But I think it's been a mark of our society in maybe the 80s, the 90s and the zeros. Very consumer-centric,
Yeah.
very throwaway.
Yeah.
And even now you look at clothing. I lived with 3 girls for a long time. My ex-girlfriend and 2 stepdaughters, and the amount of packaging that was arriving from China, and you look at they get the clothes out and go, this is terrible, so where's it going to go? And it's just so, even now when we try and be more, and they were all very, very pro-planet, pro-environmentally aware, and it was, do you not see that what you're doing?
Well, yeah, in theory, I suppose, yeah, we are. But in practice, like you're saying, like they go, oh no, I mean, them. They go, well, yeah, okay, so it's a throwaway society.
Well, that's it. It's that virtue.
As opposed to mend and make do.
Yeah.
I think of the mend and make do sort of mentality.
Yeah.
And that's it's almost in the same spirit as that, isn't
Very
it?
similar.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. And what we found with the shop was we thought it'd be like young hipster people who'd be shopping with us. It's actually much older people who are used to shopping like this from olden
Like
days.
my mother, who absolutely loves your shop.
And we were like, gosh, we weren't expecting this. So we were trying to look at demographics of people living in areas, and thought it would be younger people. We needed an area where it was, a young demographic.
Hipsters. Not Whitchurch, they're hipsters.
And we just found that it was older people who were just like, oh yeah, we used to shop like this, and they fully embraced it, whereas younger people are often a bit kind of time short. So shopping with us is a bit of a slower process. You don't just grab it off the shelf and throw it in your basket and go. You've got to kind of think about how much you want and put it into a bag, and then I have to weigh it, and it's slower, which I think is nice.
But slow shopping, that slow telly.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we've done because a lot of people, Laurie will interject around this one again, but I treat this, I love Radio 4, and I think I skewed their demographic in my 20s by listening to it, but the slow telly of sticking a camera on front of a boat or a steam train, and it's so relaxing, and it is just kind of slowing down in a world that is so frenetic and connected, but maybe not in a great way.
Yeah.
And actually it's probably quite a nice process coming into the shop quite cathartic.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're kind of stepping back into time a little bit, and you've got time,
I think
and you
it's
make time to do it.
more mindful. You're kind
Yes.
of more conscious.
Which
of,
means you're less wasteful, I would imagine.
Yeah.
This is like an admission that I haven't been in, but have you got like an old-fashioned till?
That's because you're a hipster, Dave.
Like the arc, well, yeah, totally hit. But have you got like that Arkwright till, like dead old-fashioned one?
It
like,
does spring out.
It
and
does
hit you.
spring out.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm sorry I interrupted you then. I do apologise.
That's all right. I can't remember what I was saying then.
Oh no.
How it's mindful shopping because it's slower.
Yeah, and I think it's people are used to going, I'll just grab that bag of pasta. And
Especially
that
for
bag
nicking
of-"
stuff.
Yeah, it does make it a bit harder. Got to open up their pockets. But they come in and they go, oh, and I say, how much do you want? Do you want a small bag, a medium bag, a large bag? And they're like, well, how much do I normally buy? I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know what
Much more
size
than
of
this.
bag you buy. And people don't, they're just so used to grabbing that they don't
This is really
even
interesting.
know what size they're buying.
No, they're not. We're not very mindful when we shop.
No.
We're just like we say. We just sort of grab at it and probably go what's cheapest.
Yeah, we're
we always want
pre-programmed
that.
to just go, well, the supermarket's put it in a 500 gram pack, so that's obviously what I need.
Yeah.
But we don't always.
No,
and,
we don't even know. We don't even
and
know
you
what
don't even know what that size is.
denominations or like measurements of things. How much do you consume? I don't know.
Don't know.
But now you've got to
Yeah, quantify
think
it a
about
bit.
it. Yeah.
Which means you were actually thinking about it. You're going to be saving money because I presume price-wise you compete.
We do, yeah. So there's some things that we're cheaper on. There's some things we're a bit more expensive on. Like we can't compete with the supermarket
No, of
prices
course not.
on everything. But on the whole, if you go basket to basket, we would be at least, I would say, on a par, if not a bit cheaper. And I think people have a misconception about that as well. They
will
think
do,
we're
yeah.
going to be more expensive because we're a small independent.
Which is just fantastic. So you're
Yeah.
kind of ticking all the bases that people actually really need if they think about it. And actually, I think the experience, and we talk about the high street needs to improve its experience so people are actually enjoying what they're doing. And I think rather than that, a headlong dash, trolley clashing, through. And okay, the supermarkets have the place. I understand that, but it is a very pleasant experience. And I actually think I've tried your very large chocolate hazelnuts, which are delicious. But it's a lovely experience because I walked in the other day and the smell was just heavenly. The
Yeah.
mixture of jasmine and
I can't even smell it anymore, but apparently it smells lovely.
But it
And
is
it's,
absolutely.
I think herbs, spices, candles, like a whole array of things that hit your nose.
because I think I mentioned Lush to you. And
Oh,
Lush,
yes.
Lush really should have an exclusion zone of about 100 metres around
Should.
it. I have to. If I've been in, I then come out and have to.
I have a headache and lie
It's-
down in a
Oh my
Yeah,
God, it's
exactly. I
rough,
feel like I'm
innit?
having a seizure.
It's not lush. It's rough.
So you talk about. It's really interesting that you talk about your customers and you kind of thought. And I think this can happen a lot in the world with a product. You think, oh, these definitely spend million. I imagine you didn't spend millions on research. That people will spend millions on research and they go, well, we're definitely this. This is who we're going for because we want to be cool. We want to be trendy. We want to be hip. And actually, when it comes down to it, you go, oh my God, this is completely different.
Yeah. It took us by surprise. I think because we were starting to think like this, we thought, oh, everyone else must be as well. But obviously they're not, and it's people who have shopped like this in the past and grew up walking into a shop and saying, I'll have a quarter of that and an ounce of that, and they still come in and say that to me. I'm like, sorry, I don't understand that. I need to go and do a conversion chart and figure that out in grams. But it's how people used to shop, and it's the people who know this from old who are coming back to do it again now.
And do you find you have a lot of people that do come back once they've been in once? They always come back.
We've definitely got regulars who come and do like a weekly shop with us, and then what they can't get from us, they'll go to the supermarket and get their top up. And we're getting more and more regulars, which is amazing. So yeah, we've got people who come back week in, week out, and that's amazing for us.
So does it take up all of your time?
Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah, I'll wake up in the night and I'll be like, oh my God, I haven't ordered Brazil nuts. And like, yeah, it becomes part of your life, and I enjoy it, so that's good.
So have there been since you've set? When did you set up?
We will be 5 years old in July this year.
Okay.
So we opened between lockdown 1 and lockdown 2.
Ideal.
Yeah, great time. No, it was actually, I think, quite beneficial for us, weirdly. I think people were, because we were going to be a food shop, we were allowed to open, and remain open. we obviously are quite small, so we could only allow like 2 sets of customers in at a time. It was when people were having to queue outside of supermarkets, and I think people felt safer in our shop as opposed to some of the bigger supermarkets.
It's that beautiful smell they might have thought was disinfectant. So.
Yes, yeah. And I think also people had more time at that point because they were either furloughed or locked down and couldn't go to work, so they had a bit more time to come out, and they wanted to get out of the house, so being out of the house for longer wasn't a terrible experience. They weren't rushing around to get back to work, so I think in a weird way it wasn't the worst time for us to open. I think it did have its benefits.
No, because I remember at that time there was like in the news or in the air anyway, people were saying how much clearer the canals were. Was it in Venice? They were saying it was almost having like a good effect, really, on the environment because things had like slowed down so much.
Yeah, there weren't as much fumes, car exhausts.
Absolutely.
People were staying at home, so it did really change, I think, people's habits and what they were doing at the time. So we didn't suffer, I don't think. Obviously I hadn't opened a shop in a different time, so I can't compare it, but I don't think it was bad for us.
So why Whitchurch?
That's a good question.
It's a question for all of us.
Why Whitchurch?
Why anything? Why this boat?
My hen party.
Sorry?
My hen party.
Was here?
It was, we wanted to go to Chester races.
Oh dear God.
And yeah, typical hen party. So we hired a cottage in Malpas.
Lovely.
And we were based there for the weekend, and we went to the Horse and Jockey on the Sunday for a Sunday roast. And as we drove through Malpas, I was like, oh, I think Nick would really like it here.
And this is whilst you're in Manchester,
This
is
while
that right?
we still lived in Manchester, and Nick had been saying I want to live more rurally, and I was like, no, I'm a city girl, I want to stay in Manchester. And then eventually...
Is that where you're from originally?
No, I was born in Plymouth.
Okay. Right.
Moved around a bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Nick said I want to be more rural, and I was kind of fighting it. And then eventually I was like, no, actually, Manchester, the crime is getting quite bad. I'm not loving it. So
I was working in Manchester for about a year, and I was standing outside the agency at the bottom end as you're going out towards Salford, under the arches, the railway arches where we had the office, and I just thought it was a joke. I remember this guy, it was the summer, and this guy swaggered up with that Manchester swagger, with a bag over his shoulder, semi-naked, no top on. He goes, all right there, mate, can you tell us where the Snide shop is? And I went, you what?
Snide.
No, I mean Snide shop, I've got some gear I want to shift, mate. Where's the Snide shop? And I thought, okay, this is a cliche, but it's happened.
Yeah.
So that's your... So Hendu, Whitchurch, lovely.
And drove through, thought Nick would love it, and when we decided we were moving, it popped back into my head, and I went, I think you'd really like this place called Malpas.
Yeah.
And so we looked to live there. We ended up moving in during lockdown. We literally handed our keys over the week before lockdown happened. We knew I was gonna live with my dad for a short while, and then we'd move into our house. But our house fell through because of lockdown, so we rented in Malpas but opened a shop in Whitchurch, and after about a month I was like, I think we need to be living
in the shop.
Yeah, in the shop. In Whitchurch. I just felt there was such an amazing sense of community, and then every night I was leaving it and going back to Malpas, and I hadn't got to know anyone in Malpas because I didn't have a shop there to get talking to people. I didn't have that kind of feeling of being part of it at that point. And because of lockdown, you couldn't go to the pub and kind of meet people that way.
Part of it, like part of the Malpas community?
Yeah. Not that Malpas is a bad place. It just didn't... We didn't feel that we were kind of settling in there, whereas we did get that sense from Whitchurch.
Oh, wow.
And so from that, we looked at our house and had at that point said, no, we're not living in Whitchurch. And then that house came back on the market, and I was like, I think that's the house it's meant to be. We're meant to be in Whitchurch, and it's come back on the market for a reason. And let's go for it. And I think it was 100% the right decision. Love it here.
It's funny, isn't it? I suppose I've been all over, but I was originally Chester, and I was down south for a long time. But my folks lived in Wurzel for 25 years or so.
Wurzel.
Worswell.
Oh, Wurzel.
Worswell Gummidge.
Yeah.
Wurzel.
Word.
And but in those periods of time, I've come back with my ex-wife and children. We've been back, and with other people, and it's funny, over probably a period of 25 years, it seems to go in peaks and troughs.
I've heard that.
And initially I thought, wow, this is very different. Then it was like, oh, this is getting interesting. And then you see certain shops coming, like, Sainsbury's, Tesco, Aldi, Lidl, Costa.
Yeah.
And you think, well, okay, they're sticking money there. There's something.
There's got to be a reason.
It's always had character. It's always been quite pretty.
Yeah.
It's so compact, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there seems to be this kind of like, ooh, it's not going so well at the moment. Ooh,
Withdrawal.
this isn't great.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, this is great. So, you are on the high street. You're in a great location. I think it's sometimes a bit modest, and I think it's very British. We can all be a bit down on ourselves. What do you think of the place? Why?
Of Whitchurch?
Yeah. What do you?
I think it's brilliant.
There's a place to do business, to live. What are your thoughts?
To do business, I think people are really loyal, incredibly supportive of local shops, independent shops. And then as a place to live, I just think it's got so much going for it. We've got pubs, restaurants, great shops, great cafes. We've got countryside, like on your doorstep. You don't have to jump in the car to get to gorgeous countryside. I just think it's got so
like
much
all
going
there.
for it. Yeah,
It's all there.
it's compact.
Yeah.
So I was worried about moving away from Manchester and not having all the things I needed, and we've got more
Snide
than
shops.
enough. Yeah,
Not well.
we don't have those, luckily.
I don't know.
Not that I know of, anyway. And yeah, I think it's just a really great little place, and I think you could live here quite happily without needing a car, but you can go off to the bigger cities if you really need it, and it's got a lot going for it.
It's ideally situated, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
all
it seems
roads
to
lead to Whitchurch.
exactly. It seems to suit you well.
Yeah, considering I thought I was a city girl and didn't want to be more rural. Nick's idea of rural would be like a little island off the coast of Scotland, and I said no. That's
Like far,
that's
really
a bit
remote.
Too much, love.
Yeah.
So let's compromise on Whitchurch.
It's rural enough.
Yeah, and I think he realises that we need stuff around us as well. It's nice to have, places and people to talk to. We don't just want to be stuck on an island in our little on a
Skyfall
farm.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he's come round to realising that you need more than just a farm or something.
I think community. I think we're all, no matter how introvert or extrovert we are, we all at some point need other people. We need to feel part of something, and I think that's what a lot of people are trying, or a number of people are trying to do here. It's saying, we are all an ecosystem. Whether you work here, whether you live here, whether you're a visitor or a resident, it doesn't matter. I think if we all chip in and we all help support each other, it does make the place a nicer place to live, a better place to live. We benefit from it. You might think, oh, okay, well, I work elsewhere and I can also, I can get in the car and go somewhere. But actually, it does come back down to the fact that if you are walking down the high street, you want to see something, you want to feel like it's thriving.
You don't want to feel like you're walking through a deserted town and, all the shutters are down and there's nothing open. You want to walk through somewhere that's pretty and vibrant and thriving.
And if we really do it properly, let's appeal to the very British psyche of, well, your house price will go up if you live in a nice area. So if the area is lovely, your house price is going to go up.
That does appeal to a lot, yes,
Exactly.
definitely.
So what do you think any plans to expand or branch out, leverage, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Leveraging your brand, sorry.
What a marketing man he is, isn't he? What a guy.
I wouldn't even know how
I will
to
walk the
leverage a
plank for
brand.
that. But, I mean, would you expand, or are you content as it is? Or is what you're doing?
I think people always aspire to more. So
yes, wrongly.
We
Sometimes
do want to expand. So we've launched our online shop. So we used to just have like a website that was literally told people what we do, but now we sell online to try and reach further and wider. And we do have some plans that I can't say exactly what, but we hope to move to a bigger premises at some point. but nothing's signed yet, so I can't say too much.
That's great, and that's a brilliant success story.
And still on the high street, so we're not.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic.
Anywhere, so.
I'm really pleased about
Wood
that.
on that
Touch
one.
wood, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, just it sounded all very positive, but until everything's signed, you can't count your chickens.
Are you expanding the sweet section?
Always.
So what's been really tough that you kind of look back and go, oh my god, that was hard?
I think every year is a learning experience, and there's something different that you try to overcome. So like the first year we opened during lockdown, and that was just hard because you're opening and it's difficult starting a new business, and then you've got a lockdown, you don't know what that means.
That was a strange time, wasn't it?
It was, definitely, yeah. And then the second year we almost had a bit of a dip in our sales, which we were like, oh gosh, now is this not working? And then since then it's been kind of growing, which is fantastic. But I think there's always something that's hard, introducing new products and whether they're going to be popular, or if we're going to end up with stock that we've invested in that doesn't sell, and then you're going, oh gosh, what have I done? And yeah, I think just running your own business is generally.
It sounds like
hard.
a fun, yeah, but yeah, I get that, I hear that, but I do kind of light up a bit when you talk about it. It's
Yes.
it's a fun risk. It almost
Yes.
feels like a bit of a fun risk. Am I wrong?
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, what's the point in not being risky? You've got to.
Yeah, I know.
Do
It's
exciting
exciting,
things as
right?
well.
It's a bit of a
Push
punt.
yourself.
Let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
I had a bit, talking of Chester races, I had a bit of a punt at Chester races when I was 21, so I just started working, so I thought I was minted on a very small salary, never gambled. So we'd all gone to Chester races in our horrendous 1996 suits.
Shiny.
No, we were more David Schwimmer from Friends, it was dreadful.
3-button?
Yep, 3-button, terrible.
Oh no.
And so the Scouse guys that run a car park behind Habitat said, you need to put this money on this horse. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go big. I'm a big roller.
Gonna go big.
250 quid on a horse, 17-1. And this horse romped home in first place. So what am I thinking? What's that? 250.
That's
So it's
a lot.
like 3.5 grand.
Jeez.
I'm thinking, everyone, and I'm not thinking, I'm going, right, I want 5 bottles of champagne, because there were a group there, 5 bottles of champagne, the best, pop them, all Guinness poured, and literally they popped the corks, bang, bang, bang.
Oh no.
Oh, you can imagine. The Guinness was all poured, it settled nicely, and everybody was tucking in, and just as I'd signed the chitty, there was a big tannoy announcement, and it was this typical bloody Scouse horse got disqualified for barging at the first fence.
Oh my god.
So yeah, Chester races and taking punts.
Oh.
Coming back to your point, unfortunately, I've learnt my lesson.
Yeah.
So I've become risk averse.
Yeah, 250
Yeah.
is a lot.
No,
Maybe
it
just
was-
a tenner next
It
time.
was the thought that I actually had won 4 grand, and I thought, this is amazing. But no.
Denied.
Exactly.
Bummer.
So when it's been tough, have you? I don't know. I found it in my career when I've been at my best, it's because I've had someone above me who's almost a bit of a mentor, and that's at any age.
Mm-hmm.
So have you had people that have guided you and have supported you and have helped your own almost little kind of community, apart from Nick, obviously?
Yeah, I was going to say Nick's always my staple. He's there to tell me to put my big girl pants on, as he likes to say, and just get on with it. But I've got family here who are always there to help and support me, and I think within the community of shops, people are there to talk to, for you to just go, oh my god, I had such an annoying customer today, or oh my god, it's been a terrible day. Or,
I imagine they
"We've had
do
a
the
great-"
rounds on purpose.
Yeah.
It's like a pub crawl.
Yeah. And you're like, have you had so-and-so? No, we don't say that. But yeah, I think the community of shops within Whitchurch is a great little, community to fall upon when you're feeling like you need to vent for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And we're all going through similar things. Some days you'll have a great day and they'll have a bad day, and some days they'll have a great day and you'll have a bad day, and it's just nice to kind of bat it back to one another. And
Allies. You all recognise the same struggles.
Yeah.
You're all sort of in it together.
In it together, definitely. There's everyone's fighting to keep our town thriving and keep it going and have the best high street that we can. So
because you're very active in that as well. I think it was really nice is you see yourself as a business, but I think because you know Steve very well, and Steve is such a dynamo of 85 p words and alliteration, hence his very long broadcast. But he is brilliant. But you're very supportive of that, aren't you? You're very involved.
Yeah.
Because I think
what Steve does for the town with Blackberry Fair, and he does more beyond Blackberry Fair, as does Claire. They're both incredible, and we are so fortunate to have people like that we have to.
You're
support
part of
them.
that though as well.
But in a supportive role, I'd say. And yeah, without those guys, we wouldn't have people to support. So, they're the forerunners, I would say.
But I think it just shows how important it is that we are all part of, however big or small, rich or poor, whatever, we're all part of that ecosystem, and it does need all of that input to just thrive, survive.
Definitely. Yeah, even if we're a little ant carrying a leaf somewhere, it all matters.
Even if I come in and buy 3 chocolate Brazil nuts, that's mine. I bought a cup of tea in Stella's the other day. I think she was delighted. Probably keep her in champagne all weekend. Brilliant. I think I've almost dried up. Or I need to go to the loo. I actually need to go to the loo.
Probably a wrap, isn't it?
Pardon?
It's probably a wrap, isn't it?
It is now because I've lost my train of thought again.
Have you?
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for coming in.
No problem.
Was the wine okay?
Delicious. It's white and it's cold, so I can't complain.
Well, that'll do.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Really appreciate that.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Fabulous.
The Lock-In is a conversation on a canal boat, often accompanied by beer. Every couple of weeks, we'll talk to someone from Whitchurch who has contributed to our community, who has a story, who makes the town special. They could come from any age, any background, any walk of life, but they embody the spirit of this fantastic, sometimes overly modest little market town. So, if you have a story, something to say, or know someone that does, we'd love you or them to get on board and tell us what floats your boat, gets your engine running, makes you tick. You get the picture.